All right, real quickly, before we get started, just take a look at my finished piece. Think about whether you'd like to use the same colors or maybe you'd like to work in some different colors today. I'm going to guide you to finish this specific piece of artwork. However, that doesn't have to be your creative path today. If you want to take some different ways and do some different things, this is your art and you can do whatever you'd like. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Kasey. Thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you came by. We're going to paint a really pretty, like a lake with some little mountains and a lovely sky and a sun or a moon. You can choose. So what you'll need today is some watercolor paints. I am using this brand. You can use whatever brand you'd like. And I've got here a paper towel. So this is going to help us if we need to rinse or wash our brush out at all today. And I have some washi tape. So I'm going to use this to tape my paper down. And you might be using regular paper, but what I'm using is a watercolor card. So this is like a 5x7 piece of paper that we'll be painting on, but folded over, it makes a card. So the surface that we're painting on is 5x7. So the first thing I'm gonna do, oh, and make sure that you've got some water also. The first thing I'm gonna do is tape my paper down. And this is important because I don't want it to move around a lot. So if I tape it down, not only is it going to not move around, but it's also going to give me like this really nice border around the edge of my page. So I'm trying to get this tape kind of halfway on the card, halfway on my desk. And at the beginning, sometimes it doesn't stick well because that card just really wants to come up. But that's okay. I understand that you want to come up card, but that's not what I'm here to let you do today. If you need to put 2 pieces of tape down, that's fine. So you can use this one. I'm making this lovely boundary on my page. But because my page wants to come up, I'm going to put another piece of tape here. And that's optional. Yours might be sticking down. And this is washi tape. And if you don't have washi tape and you need to use another kind of tape that isn't really made to be put on paper, you can kind of run that tape over your t-shirt, or if you've got some fleecy pants or something on, and get a little bit of lint on that tape, and then it won't be quite as sticky, and you'll have a little nicer time when you go to take the tape off. All right, last piece across the top here. And I'm trying not to get my fingers on the actual paper. I'm trying to just press on the tape because that's going to make this work a little better. So I feel like my tape is sticking well. If you don't feel like yours is sticking well, you can also stick another piece of tape under there. Whatever you need to do to just hold your paper down nicely. All right, now we're going to begin painting. So if you haven't worked with watercolors before, you need to activate the paint with some water. So I'm going into my water here, getting my brush really wet. And first, we're just gonna paint a border here. So like, I'm just painting a line. I'm gonna come down and I'm painting probably like the bottom third of my page is getting painted only with water. Now, if this is too difficult for you to see, you can always put a tiny bit of color in there, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just painting this with water, and I'm going to come in with whatever color we want our water to be. So I want my water to be kind of blue, but I'm not going to paint it all blue. I'm just going to paint like some little streaks, and through the middle I want to leave a lot of white. So over here on the edges I can have more blue, but through that center I want to leave a great deal of white. So for now, we're just coming in, we're just scratching in some water. And I'm gonna dip in just a tiny bit of water and get some darker blue on my brush. And kind of just, I'm just taking it across. And I don't want a lot of blue through this center area here. Perfect. So this is just really easy breezy blue. And we are doing what we call wet on wet painting here. So we're painting wet paint onto a wet surface. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of that, and I think I want some green in this water. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this green. And I'm gonna try to, I still want that blue to show through though. So I'm not gonna add it all over the place. I'm just gonna add it here and there. And I'm still trying to leave this white space down the middle as much as I can. So I'm kind of just coming in with some blue and some green. And I'm using horizontal strokes, so I'm going side to side. And it's very, very gentle. All right, so now let's take another piece of paper and kind of fan this a little bit. So sometimes with watercolor, we need it to dry a little bit between coats. That's gonna make our life a little bit easier. Let's see if I can zoom you in a little bit more. There we go, now you'll have a better view. All right, so we just want this to dry a tiny bit. And I know this does not look like much right now. Don't worry about that. So I'm gonna go back into my blue. And if you don't want your water to be green and blue, that's okay. You can use really any color. But I'm gonna come in sort of from the sides and just add some more blue streaks. And I want it to be darker toward the edges of my paper. So again, these are just horizontal lines, but I'm trying to leave a little alley of white through the center because that will be where we have some reflection from our moon or our sun, whatever it is in your picture. Yours doesn't have to be the same as mine. That's the best thing about art, is we all can just decide what's going on in our own painting. And you know, I'm here to show you how to do a specific painting, but if you feel like you'd rather do something else today, we can just paint together. You can just sit here and listen to my nice music and the sound of my voice, whatever helps you to be very relaxing. All right, so I think that's gonna be plenty. I'm gonna come in just with a tiny bit of purple because I want my edges to be pretty dark. And I think this is gonna do it. All right, so I'm just gonna come in just at some of these edges. See how nice that is, how it kind of melts into that paint that's already there. So I'm just bringing also a tiny bit of purple. So this may not make a lot of sense right now. It may not just look like really amazing to you, and that's okay. This isn't the part of the painting where it looks like a masterpiece, so don't worry about that. All right, so I think that's gonna do it for me. I like this. And this part down here maybe is even a little bit too dark, but that's just how it's gonna be. All right, so then I'm gonna give this a little bit of a fan. And what I want you to make sure of is that the very top edge is super dry. So if you have a hair dryer, you can grab that and you can dry with a hair dryer, an index card, another piece of paper, just anything. So let's just take it and fan it gently. So I just want to be sure that that top part is nice and dry, because the next thing we're going to do is come in here and kind of paint in our sky. And that's going to use a lot of water. So we don't want to have our sky and our water, our lake, our ocean, whatever this is for you, we don't want them blending and having too much of a party. We want a nice crisp line across that horizon. So that should do it for me. Now I want you to find something round, and it can be like your tape, it can be whatever you want. I'm gonna grab a pencil and put that there, and I'm gonna use my pencil just to make this little circle. And this circle is going to be can be your sun or your moon, whatever it is for you. I kind of messed up a little bit, so let me get that out of there. And then I'm going to get my brush nice and watery again. And I'm going to paint just around the edge of this circle. So I just want to get this paper nice and wet all around the boundary of that circle. And if you can't see it, again, it's fine to go in and grab some, like let's maybe grab a little bit of yellow so you can see where that water is going down. So I don't want to get the moon wet. I just want to get the edges nice and wet. So when I come to put some color in here, it's going to be really easy. So there we go. So we've kind of made like, what we're gonna paint now is kind of like a donut. So kind of imagine that you're painting just a big donut around the hole that we drew. And if your circle is a little bigger, if you used something that wasn't tape, that's all right, don't worry too much. So I'm gonna start at the center with some yellow. So I'm just gonna touch this yellow to my wet paper. Then I'm going to grab some more water and make it very, very light, very, very pale. I'm going to kind of use just the tip of my brush to spread it out into that donut to where it's very faded, right? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is where you can just really make this all your own. You can use whatever colors you'd like. So I'm going to color in these corners just with water. And this is like where we have the donut. And I'm not going to touch that line down there. I'm just barely going next to it, but I'm not going to touch it because I don't really want my water to blend with that horizon line. So I'm not going to touch that, but I'm going to get some water on all the rest of these little edges and corners. And this is where the fun begins, and you can really use whatever colors are speaking to you today. So I'm going to use some more yellow because I really do enjoy the yellow, and I am just going to tap it around. I'm going to add water. Now you want to use a lot of water because you want your colors to be super fun. So I'm going to use yellow, and then what am I going to do next? I think I'm going to use maybe some red. So I'm going to go into my red, and I'm going to kind of poke that red in up near the top. And I don't want to blend these colors to where they look exactly the same. I want to kind of have that ombre effect where we have a red going into a yellow, and you could always put some orange in there if you want to. And you can paint right over that tape. If you want, that tape doesn't have to really mean anything. It's just really there for us later. All right, so then I'm gonna go into, let's see, maybe some actual orange. If you don't care for these colors, if you'd like to do something else, that is absolutely fine. You don't have to use my colors at all. And I am just dabbing this around, doing what I want with my sky. And I'm coming right up to the edge of that moon, sun, whatever it is for you today. So I'm just kind of making my sky very colorful. And you may not have it if you just have the 8, but I'm going to go ahead and dip into this other color here that I have. It's kind of a magenta, and I'm going to add that down near my water. And I'm just kind of dabbing this in with the tip of my brush, and I'll go down and make this horizontal line, but again, I don't really want to touch most of that paint. So now that we've kind of filled in that background, I'm just going to use the tip of my brush to make this look a little more purposeful. You can make your sky however you would like it. I'm just going to keep putting, you can put water down to kind of make these colors blend and spread out. But I am just really going to kind of throw these colors in here, kind of almost in like a cloud formation. Almost like these are clouds. Just some big pink clouds. And you could use purple in here, that would work. Just make your sky kind of all the colors that you would like it to be. Let's see, maybe I will bring a little purple in here into that cloud area, and make sure that you have a lot of water with your paint, because if your paint's not, you know, when you put your brush down, if your paint's not really spreading like that, you need to have more water on your paper. So I'm going to kind of make these gorgeous purple cloud formations here and there. So now I'm rinsing out my brush. So I've put my purple down. I'm rinsing my brush, and I'm just taking the tip of that brush and dabbing around in this purple to make it more cloudy feeling. It's kind of cool, huh? I love watching the paints work together. So if you have a lot of water sitting right here, you can just like brush it off the tape, and then you don't have to deal with it. So that's kind of nice. So now I'm going to go back up in the previous purple spaces I made and kind of get the edges there. I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I want them to be a little floofier. I want them to be a little more natural and a little less dark. So I'm just going to dab around. And I'm just kind of trying to stay around and behind that moon. So you can see I've kind of got these clouds. And what we're gonna do where this water is pooling up, so I'm gonna rinse my brush, I'm gonna roll out all the water that's in it, and I'm gonna roll that over here to kind of suck up some of that water, because what that will do is take a very long time to dry, and that can be frustrating. So let's just, if you've got extra water like that, you can just pull it right off. Just rolling it off the edge. Get out of here, water. I'm not here for you. All right. So what's happening now is I've kind of breached the inside of my moon. So I'm just putting like the tiniest bit of water on my moon. And we're painting it, but we're not really painting it like with a color. I'm just using these dried edges of paint and trying to blend them so it looks not like I messed up. All right, so I'm just blending those edges in, and then I'm gonna rinse out my brush. I'm rolling it over. I'm picking up some of that paint that got on the moon. All right, so there's my moon, there's my sky. And the next thing we want to do is a little more drying. So let's go ahead and fan this nicely. And the area we're working on again is just right here. You don't have to worry a lot about what's going on up there, because what we'll do is we'll put a landscape in there. So just fan it. If you have a hairdryer or a fan or anything, you can always grab that and bring it to your art area. Nothing wrong with that. So we are just doing some fanning. Eee. Might need to switch arms if your arm is getting tired of fanning. But really just pay attention to this line between the horizon and the water. I'm sorry, between the sky and the water. That's the important part to get really dry right now. And if you'd like something to think about, you can think about what might be happening on this water, whether you're in a boat or you're on the shore looking out. It's all very nice. So we're back and mine is really dry and I'm loving the way the sky looks. I'm a little concerned about my weird moon, but I'm just gonna tackle that later. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. So I'm going back into this water, and what I want you to do is find your black, because the next things we're doing are we're gonna be working in silhouette shapes. So I need some black, but I don't want it to, I want it to be the right consistency. So I want it to be like sort of thick, but I'm gonna bring it over here into the lid of my paint pan because I don't want it to get too gummy. And that can happen with this type of paint sometimes. I want it to be nice and dark and fluid. And I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna bring I'm gonna have a mountain over here. So what I want you to do is don't pay any attention to really what the spikes look like. Just kind of bring your paintbrush down. And there we go. This is kind of what it's gonna look like. I can always come back up and make it more rugged and more mountainy. Just like that. So, and then we're going to take the tip of our brush and just make that little tip of our mountain that comes out and go right over here like a triangle. So I want it to come a little bit further than that horizon line. So it's a little further than the horizon line, and then we'll just pull it straight over to the right. So that's our first mountain, and we're just going to fill it in. So we want this to be nice and dark and black. Nice and dark. And I really want this to be very pointy. My brush maybe needs a little bit of a haircut, doesn't it? That's all right. It is still gonna look great. All right, so there is mountain number 1. And you don't really have to rinse your brush. I'm not sure why I did that, because we're going right back in this black. And we're gonna do something similar from the other side, but it's gonna kind of come out to about here. So I'm gonna start here. I'm still above the horizon line, but not in the same way. So I'm gonna start there, and I'm just gonna kind of wiggle my hand down, and maybe that's where this one will let's make it a little bit more. What I want to avoid is covering too much of this pretty light part. So I'm just gonna bring this out, and then again do the little triangle. Make it kind of come out like this. So now we have another triangle, and we're just going to fill it in. See happening over here is this part down here needs some more black on it, and yours may not, but mine needed a little more. All right, now I'm gonna give my area kind of, let's see, I think I need another piece of land coming out. So this is just gonna come, and it's kind of going to be maybe like, it's going to go all the way down. So this is in the foreground of our painting. And you can paint right over that tape. Don't worry. We are taking that tape off at the end, and it's going to be really satisfying, and you're going to enjoy it. All right. So like this, but I want it to be a little more jagged. All right, and then maybe one more over here. One more jagged piece of land. There we go. All right, so there's all of our land. And at this point, you can leave it alone if you want to, or you can add some silhouettes like of some trees. So what I'm gonna do is add a couple of trees. Now, this may seem a little scary, but I'm going to show you like a super simple way to do it. So you're going to get that same black in your brush, and I want you to try to really get your brush to a nice pointy tip. Can you see how that's working out there? All right. And then I'm going to kind of just come in. Let's see. I think I'm going to have palm trees. So the closer things are to us, the larger they are, right? So like this tree is going to be pretty big. So this is the base of my palm tree. And then for the pieces that come off it, kind of just is going to look like a claw. and then I'm gonna have one claw coming off this way. So these ones, this one's kind of big. As we get further away, they can be smaller. So these over here are gonna be maybe like half as tall as that. And then they're gonna have the little claws coming off of them. So they can have like 4 or 5 claws, whatever you think works. And if this is too much brushwork for you, you don't have to have them. Don't worry at all. Your scene will be fine without trees. And then for the last ones back here, these are going to be like even smaller. So these are just going to be kind of tiny. And that may be challenging if you don't have a super steady hand. So you don't have to put any trees over here if you don't want to. So they kind of look like trees, but you know, not super like trees. It's all right. Okay, so I'm gonna come back down here and I'm just gonna put some leafies on this part of my tree. And you know, if you don't want trees, if you'd prefer to put a boat or a mermaid or something like that, you can. Yours doesn't have to be exactly like mine if you don't want it to. You could have birds, you could have any number of things that might be just existing here in your landscape that aren't in my landscape. So this is where your artistic, your creativity comes in. Maybe your environment is different. Maybe you've been somewhere with an island like this and you want to put something that you saw there. I haven't been to an island like this in a while, so I'm just gonna stick with palm trees. They're what I know. All right, and I'm rinsing my brush super, super, super good. And then I'm gonna dry this black a little more, because I'm gonna show you kind of a cool trick. As long as your black isn't like super, super duper wet, you can go back in with your water and kind of just make some shadow behind it. So this is like really light water, but I'm kind of bringing a little bit of shadow. It's kind of loosely symmetrical. There we go. Okay, now we've got to really rinse this black out of this brush. If you need to change your water, you can always do that too. So like, I'm still seeing a little black in my brush. So let's rinse this. There we go. Now I think it's clean. So what I want to do is kind of make this sky very starry. But I don't want to disturb these silhouettes that I've just made. So I'm going to take some paper towel and I'm going to cover the bottom part of my drawing. So that's about right. So I'm going to cover that. I still want my sky showing. So I'm going to cover that. And then I'm just kind of tearing some shapes to see if they work. So I'm going to cover that, and then I'm going to cover that black part. And then I still have that tiny tree sticking up, don't I? So I'm going to cover this tiny tree. So now I'm going to like speckle the sky. So So I'm gonna go back over here, and I've got white. If you don't have white, you can speckle the sky with yellow, or if you happen to have like some acrylic paint at your house, you can use white watered down acrylic paint to do this. And this is an optional step. You don't have to add the speckles if you don't want to. So I've just loaded up this brush with paint, and I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm gonna tap. And I'm gonna have some tiny speckles and some giant speckles. I'm gonna do another. So I have little speckles and I have huge speckles. So there's my speckling. And then I'm gonna speckle just with water because it's fun. So just with clean water. Just throw some speckles down and it'll make that kind of interesting when it dries. All right, so now I'm gonna remove this and we're gonna check for any of our black silhouette areas that might have gotten speckled. All right, do I see any? I see a tiny one. So here are some speckle got on my mountain. So I'm just gonna kind of go over it with water and it blends right in. So you don't have to worry about it. But I think it looks kind of like a galaxy sky, or it's kind of like really interesting. If you have speckles that you don't like, you can just go right over them like this, and it'll make them look more like a kind of like a cloud. Give that sky just a little bit of dimension. And you also, like if you have a white pen or like a paint marker, like maybe you have Posca pens or something like that, you can go in and put some dots with those too if you don't have the white watercolor. All right, so now we are back to this problematic moon that I've made. It's kind of weird. So I'm going in with just water, and I am filling this moon with water, and I am just gonna kind of brush at the edges. And what that's gonna do is take the paint that's already on the paper and just dilute it, and I'm hoping it will allow us to sort of erase that paint in a way. So I'm kind of just scratching with the tip of my brush to try and sort of erase that paint. And then I can take another piece of paper towel, and I'm not gonna rub, I'm just gonna like set it down and pull it right back up. And look how bright that moon looks now. So we've kind of taken away all of those drab colors that were in there, that got in there, that weren't exactly what we were trying to do. So now we have this beautiful picture, and it's pretty done. Like I really like it. I'm really happy with this. So I'm gonna dry these edges just a teeny tiny bit more. And now it's time to pull this tape, and this is my favorite part of the process. So when you pull the tape, you want to pull back and kind of at an angle. Ooh, that's amazing. I love that feeling. And then just throw that tape away because you're done with it. So let's go over here. Where's the top layer of tape? It's always hard to remember. All right, and then we're gonna pull backward. We're gonna reveal this lovely top border. And if you have any paint under there, don't you worry about it. That's fine. This is your art. This is for you. All right, and then we're gonna pull this one away. Look at that clean line. Oh, that's beautiful. And then one last tape pull. Ta-da! Now this looks beautiful. All right, so what I want you to do now is go ahead and sign it so that everybody knows you did that. and just stop and look at it and think about how pretty the light looks on the water. And if you're not 100% on this piece right now, maybe just go to sleep later this evening, and when you wake up in the morning, look at it again and with fresh eyes, and when you haven't been thinking about it so much. And I bet you'll like it even better. But I'm really happy with this. So what I can do now is I can take it, I can make a card for someone, and they will get it, and they will be, just really happy and probably feel really good that I gave them this original piece of art that I made for them. Everybody have a great rest of the day or the evening. Thank you again for joining me and for taking this time for yourself. That was a really good decision. I'll see you next time.